Hello everyone and welcome to Innovation Tech Community. So today is another series, another session of Microsoft AI Days. So I'm Pratap Reddy, Microsoft AI MVP and Data and AI Senior Consultant at Synapse. So today we are going to demonstrate something on Foundry Bot and autonomous agents, how we are going to demonstrate from end to end. So Divya is going to demonstrate something on that. So yeah, so meanwhile, if you have any queries related to the agents and the A perspective and responsible A perspective, so please reach out to us and please reach out to Divya. And yeah, hi Divya.
Hello, Pratap.
Yeah. So today our speaker is Divya Akula, and she's the co-founder of Innovation Tech Community as well. And today we are going to, Divya is going to demonstrate something on, you know, uh,
Okay.
autonomous agents as well. Yeah. So over to you, Divya.
Yeah. Thanks, Pratap. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. So, sorry for the delay. But without any further delay, let's get started. I hope my screen is visible. And am I audible?
Yes, yes.
So today I would be speaking about from Copilot to autonomous, like how we are evolving or we are moving from the state of an LLM to an autonomous agents. And this agent which we are building uses Azure AI Foundry. It's not a Copilot agent, just in case. So without any further delay, let's get started. So before that, a quick introduction. I'm a so my name is Divya Akula. I'm a Microsoft MVP in Azure AI Services and Responsible AI, with over 15 years of experience in IT. Currently, I work as a senior AI consultant with Sulava Mia, Middle East and Africa. Yeah. Apart from that, I'm a PNP community contributor, blogger, and yeah, as Pratap said, I'm the co-founder of Innovation Tech Community. That's a quick introduction, and the QR code provides all the details about me. So, if anyone interested, so before we start the session, let's start with a question: how well did your AI evolve beyond a chat? Like when the AI started, it's just a agent that clarifies the questions, or it's just an LLM that does a specific function. Now, if you say that your organization is using AI, is it using AI for chat, or are you automating the things? Where do you stand? Just reply in comments. Probably very interesting use case. So, if you see evolution of AI, we have evolved from uh, AI being a specific recruitment bot making mistakes to an extensive use cases including now your AI is in your smartphone. Your AI can be in your healthcare diagnostics and personalized loans for anomaly detection. This is one of the use case that I'm going to present today, anomaly detection. And AI, it is not limited to these set of use cases, but some use cases which we can call for accessibility as well. So how does the AI evolve? Now, as I said, it has evolved from AI apps which generate content to copilots. So right now, today's conversation, we are restricting it to Foundry. So I'll be considering only Microsoft-based LLMs. So having said that, give me 1 second for my cursor. Now, when I say AA apps, what are AA apps? AA apps are nothing but if you go to the like a few years back, you would have worked with syntax where you train a model and get an output of specific metadata from a document or specific detection, say PII information, protected information. So your agents or AI apps was dedicated to one application. Now from there it evolved to LLMs, which means large language models, where we are talking to Copilot, and it has helped us generating answers. Say for example, it can be GitHub Copilots. Now GitHub Copilots are autonomous to major extents, but even said that it you have to accept certain things, you have to ask it, you have to accept the things. So it's like assisting us in work. Even that term copilot means it is assisting towards the work. Now What are the agents? What are the agents that I am talking about? The agents that we are talking about is more about setting a goal to the agent and ensuring that it achieves with proper frameworks. I know yesterday Pratap has already given an extensive information about agents, the Foundry framework, etc. So I would not be walking you through all those, but instead of like focusing mostly on the demo part. So in a typical AI application, how does it work is user prompts it, model responds. That's the typical AI application architecture. Whereas when it comes to Copilot architecture, it user has to again prompt it. It uses the application's context. For example, it can be a Microsoft 365 application context, or it can be an Excel context, or it can be a SAP based context. Since we are talking about Copilot, it can be simple studio agent context. And then we also started grounding the information. Grounding the information is nothing but agent has to talk to a specific data source and ensure that the data is coming from that data source, and it calculates and measures based on the specific data with appropriate permissions. And these data would be presented to the model. The model would then what you call manipulate or change, not manipulate, sorry, change it according to the user's input and give us the output. Again, as I said, this would be more generative kind of context and not what we are talking about architectures. So when we talk about agent architecture, specifically in Azure Foundry, what we are talking about is combining multiple resources together. Say we are triggering an agent, and triggering an agent can happen by user or with event or by a schedule. Now, as I said, user may not be the right case here, but usually a event. Say, for example, when a new record is added to the database, or when a new file is created in the SharePoint, or every 5 hours, check my sales database and find any anomalies. I mean, any wrong transactions that you can find. These can be the use cases. Now, when it comes to the agent, the typical thing, how it differs from the declarative agents or the typical M365 agent is it all these have LLMs. Yes, they definitely have LLMs, but agents can use tools like Copilot Studio or like any other agents from different vendors. It can call tools. Now, what these tools are included, these tools can be any API, or it can be a different prompt, or it can be a connector that comes with the Power Platform. In Power Platform, you have various connectors like connecting to a SAP, connecting to a SQL, and executing a function over there, or connecting to a Azure function. It can be any part of the architect. It can be any part of a resource that can be integrated with that can be integrated with Azure, or it can come from outside as well. Like it can be an SAP connector as well, or it can be completely an API that you have created and exposed via open API. Anything can be called as a tool. And the added advantage with Azure or the Foundry is based on the model you choose. It has significant number of tokens that it can capable of holding, so the state or the memory would not change. By what I mean is, like, say for example, we are talking to an agent uh, where you're trying to book a hotel. Now you tried to book a hotel and you had few questions. The agent took some time to respond. Now you want to reopen the chat. It is not that agent loses the context. It should recognize you. It should recognize your what you were asking. Say for example, I'm trying to book a room. Say double room and no smoking zone room. So it should remember those details. That is what we call it as state. And depending on the state, if it so the outcome is always depending on the state, tool, and the LLM. For example, GPT-4o might respond different from Claude. So all these things are tightly coupled, and whenever you choose an agent, based on your requirement, you have to choose the appropriate model. Now, what can make an agent autonomous? As I said, yeah, Events definitely make an agent autonomous. Events, by which I mean, like the SharePoint case, or the document added case, documented deleted case, or file moved case, or your OneDrive document uploaded, or an email has been received in your inbox. And the decision, say for example, you have thousands of emails in the inbox. Should this agent gets triggered for every email, or an email that contains sales as a subject or sales in the body? That decides the triggering logic or executing logic. And the tool execution part, I'll show you better when we start the demo. And action without prompting. So for now, we have seen copilots, or chat gpts, or geminis. You input something and it outputs something. It's a chat based models. So we are trying to move away with it, but also, but not away from the prompt, but away from instant prompting or continuous prompting. The prompts will be fed, the agent executes it, sends the output. Now, even if we call it as an autonomous, it is still AI. Wherever we see that the escalation to human is needed, always keep human in loop. Don't forget that agents are autonomous, but it is also AI based. So there should be always a third A. And whenever there is some fault with the agents, it's not always fault with the agents. It can be all fault with the person who has created it or person who is monitoring it. So we should be very careful with autonomous agents. So it should be properly tested. There are multiple tools in the market on how to test it. Foundry itself has a tool, itself has a tools or metrics to test it. Probably that we can talk in another session. But for now, let's start with the use case. So the use case I am using here is called as sales anomaly monitoring. So I use the Adventures LT database that comes with the default Azure SQL. I'll give more details. So how our agent happens? The agent gets recurrence triggered. Say I'm trying to embed that agent into a logic app which executes for every 30 minutes or every 1 hour, or essentially daily once. And invoke this logic app actually invokes the agent, and this agent invokes a SQL tool, which I'm going to demonstrate how we have created, how this SQL tool is directly communicating with the agent, etc. And I have also used an algorithm for anomaly detection. There are multiple algorithms in the market. You can choose everything of your anything of your convenience. I have choose the deviation algorithm, and I'm not very expert in using sales or anomaly detection, so I use the simplest one, which is the deviation here. And the reasoning, what's the reason, and probably an email alert. I haven't scheduled added it, but in the logic app it should be very easy. But to start with, probably I'll go from bottom up approach. I'll first show you how what SQL we have created, and then what tool I have created on top of SQL, and how we have integrated that with the agent. So this is my detection logic, just for your thought. This is like what I have chosen. You can choose if your revenue, what your drop rate, etc., what's the spike rate, etc. But yeah, right now let's quickly enter the demo because the demo takes a significant time. Let me go to my Chrome and I'll bring that over here. Give me one more second. It is coming on the way. Yes. So I'll just show you a sample of how I have created the things. For me, already the things are in place. You can see there is some Foundry I have created, some function app I have created, there is some SQL database I have created. But for you to replicate how actually this works, uh, Pratap, do you see my Foundry screen? No. Let me stop. I'll reshare.
1 minute.
It's loading, Pratap. It's coming on
Yeah,
the way. Yeah, I hope now you see the Foundry screen.
yeah,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so sorry again. So this is my Azure portal, and here you see there are I have created lot of resources already. And as I always say, best way to start with a resource group, create your own resource group and delete it once your demo works or demo completes, because this is like this takes your money like anything. So for me to start with, I have started creating an Azure SQL resource. Azure SQL, simple Azure SQL. This is my database. You can choose any of your databases. Azure SQL database. And when I say create, you can choose either of those. But seriously, anything is fine because we are anyway going to delete whatever we are going to create. Test DB. I'll not be using this DB, but I just want to showcase you on additional settings, which is important. Now, here I have used something called as AdventureWorks database. This is the only database that I was using. So if you wanted to choose, you can choose and just click on next, and your Azure SQL database should be ready. I already have this resource, so I'll just be going to that resource and I'll show you my data quickly. And this is my SQL server. Inside my SQL server is exists my SQL DB. So, data management. You see my resources. So I have this SQL server. There are three databases, and this is the database that I am going to use. I'll just show you what all I have in my database. So if you see the tables, I have quite some tables, but since we are talking about anomaly detection in sales orders, I'm executing. So there are some sales orders for different dates. If you observe, this algorithm can work only for different dates. This is the created date. Give me 1 second. And yeah, for different products, and what was the line total and what is the unit price, etc. This is the database that I'm going to use. Now, how I'm going to use this with our agent. So I have to start creating an agent, but before creating an agent, I need to expose this database to the agent. Now I have two ways here, or three ways, or multiple ways. You can create a logic app and embed the functionality or create the algorithm that you require. For me, creating a Azure function with .NET Code was easier because .NET Code was readily available. So I have used a Visual Studio Code and created a Azure function. This is a Azure function. Sorry, let me move it back. Yes, I hope you see my Visual Studio Code. So this is a simple Visual Studio Code solution, which is a Azure function. The trigger is a HTTP trigger, and if you see, it has just one CS file, which is called anomaly file, and the function name is anomaly. Sorry for my spellings, I am confused between anomaly and anomaly. So just deal with it. And I have my SQL connection string in the environment file. So some basic checks of whether the environment string exists, connection string exists or not. And yeah, here we are opening the connection with the database. I have a simple formula here where it says that revenue should be connected to arrays, the standard deviation should be there, and revenue minus the mean and the yeah and the order mean and revenue mean, and based on that we are calculating if it is normal or if it's the type spike or the drop. It is just that calculating based on the rows whether it's a spike or is it a drop, the current row of the database, is it a spike or is it a drop, and just returning the values to the invoker. So if you are calling this Azure function from a say logic app, it will just give it in a what it just gives in a array format. For example, I'll just show you it in like my environment. I hope it is running. I don't see it is running. It is executing. Give it 2 seconds to start. I should have started. Anyways, now not sure. Let me verify quickly if it is started. This could be an issue. Okay, now it has started. If you see, this is my function, Azure function. Azure functions, if you are new to Azure functions, it's just like a API, just a simple API. I'll just run it for you and yeah, probably show it. I can run it here. I think it is not loading for some reason, or it is stopping immediately. Let me read it. The glitches, Saturday glitches are called. These are called as Saturday glitches. No worries. I'll show you how it looks in my Foundry. I will try to access directly from Foundry. If it doesn't load, I'm going to do that. Yeah. So this is a simple function. When I call anomaly, it gives me some series of data. Say for you can add parameters for number of days. Say days is 90, and I can specify what is my threshold. Let's call it as 3 and see what the output is. And what is the revenue mean, revenue standard, orders mean, order standard, etc. And this is not my area of interest. Below, if you scroll below, you will see anomalies. For 60 days, if my threshold is 3, there are no anomalies. Let's add 2.3. Sorry, let's add 2.3. Don't worry about this algorithm. This algorithm can be anything. I mean, I am definitely not new to sales. I have created this algorithm with the help of ChatGPT. So let's forget about the algorithm for something. Let's say you are creating something with Azure function, and you so my area of interest is anomalies, and it says the reason of explanation hint: revenue spikes aligns with higher order volume. This we are doubting this as a anomaly because we are seeing higher order volume, for, which is very much related to this transaction or this date's transaction. So that is the reason it calls anomaly. If you see, it's a simple JSON. And what I did was I have created an open API specification. If you wanted to know, I can share the tool after this session, probably in the comments or somewhere, on how to create sorry, open API specification for any API. And then the interesting part. Let's go back to our agents. So before excuse me 1 second. Yes, I'm back. So first part of the work is done. You have created a Azure function. Yeah, one important data. After you create your Azure function, you have to deploy it. So how do you deploy? You have a beautiful add-in in Visual Studio Code. The functions load there, right click and deploy. That's it. Either you can create a function. Mine is a created function. I have just right clicked and deploy. I'll probably show you once it opens up. You see this beautiful function app. You can create function app here, or if you have a already existing one, you can just say deploy to function app. But when you are saying when you are deploying to existing function app, you have to ensure that your version, if this is created in .NET, the this app also obviously should be created in .NET. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So ensure that is maintained. Otherwise, you can just create a function from here and deploy, and we are good. I'll stop debugging here just to save my computer resource, and let's go back to the agents. Now, as I said, how do I create an agent? Now, what agents are? Where do I find the agents? Just go to your Azure portal, simple Azure portal. Something you see this called Azure OpenAI, and now you have Foundry, AI Hubs, Azure OpenAI, and AI Search. I'm not using AI Search. You can use Azure OpenAI or Foundry. I'm using Foundry for that newer experience. And my example is sitting here in PI detection example. All we need to do good is go to the Foundry portal. And in the Foundry portal, you have this beautiful new UI is what they're calling us. But I don't see in the new UI. It's easy for me to be in the old UI and complete it. So here I see in the agents. This looks very old, but it is easier when you are coding. Specifically when you are coding, this feels, I feel this is very easy. Now I'll create a new agent, and inside the agent, so I this was my existing agent, this is the new agent. It generates an agent ID. You have to properly name your agent name, and you have to specify the instructions, what the agent can do. So for me, I have used this age instruction. See if it is too small, I'll just add it in a notepad. 1 second. If you see, I just called it as an anomaly analyst for daily sales metrics. Yeah, anomaly analyst. Yes, yes. Always use the provided tools to fetch anomaly data, which means I'm asking not to hallucinate here itself. And if anomalies exist, summarize them, classify them as low, medium, or high, and provide an investigation checklist and recommended actions. Be concise and executive ready. Executive ready in the sense an action should be taken place with the instructions provided. And when giving checks, propose SQL queries in plain text, no code blocks unless used. If there are no anomalies, clearly say no and mention the threshold and the time window used. What was the time window from which date to which date it is used, and specify that there are no anomalies in the plain text. Okay, that's what I'm giving this as an instruction. Now, in the previous slides, or in the previous where when I'm walking you through the Copilot agents and the copilots and architecture, whenever you see copilots, in Copilot, you can specify the source. But if you see here in agents, you can specify the agent name. The same thing. You can create a new deployment. Deployment is where you choose the models from. So let me not mind this. So you can choose from an existing agent, or you can choose from the baseline models. Catalog. Not sure. As I said, it's very slow compared to any other time. But if you see here, you can choose any models, but always your model goal, your model should be aligned with your goal. For example, if you are doing a research paper, ensure that you are using GPT-5. If, ensure that you are not using GPT-5 mini or GPT-4.1 mini, because the answers would be cut short. Always align your model with the output that is needed, which is very important. and you can see multiple things. Not sure why it is not showing cloud, but it was showing cloud. So other than this, you can always go to model catalog, create one deployment and add it. So creating a deployment is nothing but creating a model with specific instructions so that it is ready to be added to your agent. Now, yeah, and here you can specify instructions and description. This is same like our copilots. If you would have access to the copilot on agent creation, it's similar. Now what makes it special? Yeah, knowledge is also similar, but if you see here, you can add files, you can add a Azure AI index. This is crucial. Now Azure AI index can almost index any platform, either it is a SharePoint or non-SharePoint. It can access any platform, and Fabric or SharePoint, or it can go with the Bing search or the Bing custom. If you have a Bing API custom, it can even work with that, or TripAdvisor and Morningstar. Any of this will work. Now I know my data exists in a database, but I don't want to give access to the database directly. Instead, I will use the Azure function as a communication method or communication way, because I only want this agent to do only one thing: find anomalies for me. Now, how do I do? I have created an Azure function. I have shown you how to deploy. Before I show how to add it, where is my tools? Before I show you how to add it, tools are now called actions. Oh my god. So before I show you how to add it, there are some other options that are available within this API. This API you can see. It can read, you can add a code interpreter, which means it can read data sheets or it can perform Python, complex Python examples or complex Python calculations, and provides you a neat create graph and bar charts. Or you can use OpenAPI 3.0 specified tool. I used OpenAPI 3.0 because I exposed it through Azure function. If yours is either Azure function or OpenAI, or any API, then use OpenAPI. Or as I said, whatever the logic that I have used in Azure functions, you can write the same in logic apps and connect that logic app here. You also use Azure functions directly. I did not do that because I wanted to extend whatever I was doing. Function only points to single trigger. I want to have multiple triggers. Probably not for this demo, but the other demos that I am creating. So I use just OpenAPI 3.0 specific tool. Name the tool name. Let's call it as agent anomaly. Now say test agent. Here it gets interesting. Now, my function is anonymous function, but we do not recommend anonymous function. You can always create a managed identity and associate it. So I have done both. So you can also do either a managed identity, that is what we call it as governance, and or the connection. You can choose a existing connection name. So what happens when you choose managed identity? Every Azure resource can have one identity. I'll show you when we are working with the logic apps how I can have an identity. All you need to is just turn on and add that identity here. Now what comes here is what it gets interesting. Now as I said, I have open API specification. So how did I do? Since I'm using old Foundry tool, it's still in JSON, but it is in, otherwise it will be in the open API. What you will see hyphens instead of JSON. So the most important thing, two things that I want to talk about here is the specification. So the servers, what URL I'll be using. This is the Azure function URL. If you remember, let me go back to my Azure function. I'm really sorry. Yeah, let me go back to my Azure function. If you see this is my standard URL. So this URL goes here. And if you go back to Visual Studio Code, I'm sorry, do you still see? Yeah. used your code, and this is the API name that goes over there. Very simple. So this is the base URL, and this is the API name that I would be invoking. So here I am saying this is just a summary. Here we are not instructing any agent. It is just a summary of what this tool does. Now, once I add it to the Azure Foundry agent, it looks very interesting. Let me go back. Sorry, wrong. This is how I add it to the Azure Foundry agent, and just click next. And I know the agent name I cannot use anomaly, so I used anomaly. So once you click on create tool, so in the actions you can see the agent anomaly tool. Now to test this, I'll simply just go back, not to have any surprises. So if you see here, I have added there are no connected agents. The connected agents are the place we talk about agent orchestration. Like I can connect this agent to a say email sending agent. And I did not change any temperature or toppy. I can change toppy to 0 or just to reduce the hallucination or creation. But I do not want to do any of these things. So just try it in my playground. Let me give a prompt. I have GPT created my prompts. 1 second. Interesting prompts because I'm creating right away. Let's ask it as top 10 anomalies. Not 10, yeah, 10 anomalies for past 10 days. So if you see, this is called as thread log. Every communication, like I'm communicating to this agent, which means I'm creating a new thread. Like every conversation you can say is a new thread. Now, if an agent has to remember, now if you are integrating this agent somewhere else, you should always pass this thread ID so that it maintains its conversation. So it knows that Divya was the one who is talking to the agent, and she has already asked top 10 anomalies. So that is where this gets interesting. Right now, I don't have a use case that shows you this, but yeah, that's the significance. So it says no anomaly has to done in the past 10 days, and I have used the threshold of 2.5. Now I'll say give top 10 anomalies for 10 days. You can, yeah, you can always configure. Sorry, I'm too lazy for that. Sorry, past 5, sorry, 30, no, let me make 45 days with 1.5 as standard deviation. Now you see in the background what it is executing as well. It is giving the SQL checks as this and has got the output. It says 6 anomalies, and yeah, on specific dates. Now if I want this data, say for example, in tabular format, I didn't try this. This is like on the fly I'm trying. It was able to give to a certain extent. Now say I want graphs from it. What do? I'll just go back to my agents. Just go back to my agent, and here, as I said, if you need beautiful graphs, you can add code interpreters. Now I can go back to my playground. Did I say yes? Try playground. Let it load. Let it load. Now if you see, this is a new thread that has been created. Top 10 anomalies for past 45 days, and take threshold as 1.5. Don't worry about threshold and etc. etc. These are just parameters. So weather parameter kind of. Threshold as 1.5. Show it in a graph. I haven't tried. I'm trying it together. Let's see. Now here what I'm doing basically is I have created an Azure function, exposed it to the agent. That's it. Now if you ask me, can you do with MCP? MCP would be a better option. You can do with MCP if you are well aware of it. I here have chosen Azure function. You can choose MCP, API, anything. All you need is to connect it to the bot. How do you connect? The same exercise. Go to the actions and click on new action. For MCP also there would be a new OpenAI. Okay. It has ran into an error. Can you retry? If it cannot retry, let's try it from a new chat. Maybe in code interpreter it is failing. If it is failing, let's move on because it is as well enjoying its Saturday. I'm leaving it. But yeah, but I'm going to the next part of this. Now, how will I integrate this agent? I said I promised you for an autonomous agent. Now, how do I do it? It's beautifully simple. Now, what is your trigger point? Now, if I go back to my super slides, what I said is to create an if you decide for it to be autonomous, you have to decide the event or schedule it trigger. Now, event can be anything. A new record in the database or by end of the day, anything. Now, how do you do this? Agents also respond at a different intervals, but cannot schedule. At least Foundry agents, you cannot schedule it at a particular time. To do that, you can use a timer function or a timer trigger, and for that I'm using a logic app. Say any, like I said, you are not restricted with logic app, you can use anything. I use a logic app. Okay, this doesn't have a beautiful let's create a logic. I wanted to show you two things about the logic app. So you can do this also from Power Automate, but the actions can be slightly different. Now, whatever I am showing from Logic App to Power App, it will be slightly different. But yeah, we can do anything. Anything is possible these days with the anomaly detection. Now I can call it as, if you see, there are two different types added recently and still it in preview state, but you can use conversational agents or autonomous agents. I haven't tried. Let's try it together during the demo. Uh, one second. Let me mute that. Sorry for it. Yeah. Now I have, as I said, I have used this logic app as a trigger. You can use functions time trigger, any trigger, or your trigger can be outside of Azure environment. Any trigger can work. Go to resource. It's been, sorry for my faster fingers. I see just resources. No, sorry. I can choose my Azure agent, but I don't remember which agent is this. So let me add all three. I hope, yeah, all three. There are no other agents. Yeah, play. And the other options when we create an agent or when we create a logic app is, let me create. I'll be using this simple logic app, and whatever I'm choosing is right now stateful. I already have one such resource. I'll just go to that beautiful app. So, yes. Let me remove this. I was trying something. Okay. So here I have created recurrence. I said for every 3 minutes, which is too much. So every 30 minutes. You can select your time zone, etc. And here comes what this anomaly agent should do. Now you have to define this agent behavior once again here. So what we are saying is whatever I have given it as a conversational, here you have to add inside the prompt. The prompt here it is called as input and provide three possible reasons, and the output format should be 2 to 3 lines. And yeah, the other important thing I wanted to show you here is, yeah, here you cannot specify agent ID. How do you get all these details is all you need to specify the name of the agent correct. Uh, no capitals deviation, no smalls deviation, no hyphens deviation, no commas deviation, otherwise it will not start. Yeah, once you start invoking it, and then probably you can add an action, simple email, send email, or send a Teams message, anything you can use. I haven't used because with this Azure account I don't have an email setup yet, so probably for the next step. But once you click on save and run, it starts executing. So that's a quick demo from my side. Basically, what I try to capture is, and the most important part, sorry, the most important part when we are trying to do this demo is, okay, okay. Now, how do this logic app get access to this agent? So, as I said, every resource will have something called as managed identity. Now, if resource has to access the SQL DB, or if my Azure function has to access the SQL DB, I have to give my Azure function the permission to access. I know I have created it anonymous, but I also have given a permission to it. So, if I'm changing it in future or further demos, uh, so what I do here is just go to my SQL resource. This is a very important because this is where we are setting up governance. We are evolving. Just go to your SQL server and you see something called as security. Security, yes, identity. And you have to turn it on. Or I can go to my, since I don't need to give access to all of my SQL servers, I'll just go to my what SQL database, not this database, sorry. Let's search for my SQL database. Oh, yeah, this is my database and security and the identity. Okay, I have already the identity copied, so I can either there are two options: user generated identity and system generated identity. So system generated identity I have already created, so it's not showing here. Probably I can show it for some other function. And using this identity you have to give the permission on the database, or I can show in the logic app as well on how you invoke the agent. Now in the logic app function app, I had a lot of glitches today. Sorry. Settings, identity. You have this system assigned or user assigned. I prefer system assigned. I'll start on and I'll copy this identity. Now this identity is super important for the logic app to communicate with the agent. This identity, you go to the agent. So in agents, you cannot add access anywhere. All we need to go back one step to Foundry again. Where is my Foundry? Foundry, yes. I mean, basically to the Azure resources version of the Foundry in the access control. So the access managed identity. So I'm saying logic app. Let's yeah. So I already granted it as Azure AI user. Sometimes AI user doesn't work, then you have to enhance it to contributor. But AI user should still work. So without this permission, your logic app would not be able to invoke your agent. Your agent would not be able to invoke your SQL connection. For every resource, there should be either system managed identity or user identity created and communicated or given permissions in each resources so that they can communicate. So yeah, that's how we set up the governance. So when I saw the quick governance thing, yeah, I remembered that I haven't covered that. So governance, how do we get this governance? One is I have shown you managed identity, yes, and role-based access. Second, RBM with PIIM, privileged identity management. If you have not used, probably I can leave a blog or a Microsoft Learn article in the comments. But you can give them role-based access when needed. And tool allow list, like I said, you can allow specific tools. Don't add access to all the tools and let the agent communicate. It tends to hallucinate. Now if you are talking about sales order and we are also talking about purchase orders, now if you are adding both things in one tool, agent can pick data from purchase orders as well. So always important to channelize agent to appropriate tool. Don't add other tools, not necessary, and tool appropriate permissions. Now, audit logs, that is one thing that I haven't demonstrated here, but application insights always configure wherever it is possible, whether it is in your agent, whether it is in SQL side, whether it is in your middleware like your Azure Functions or OpenAI. Configure application insights when we are talking about Azure Foundry, or if you have any custom insights, custom logging infrastructure, you can configure that as well. And the most important thing is human in loop. There is someone who has to monitor it. That day, since it is always sending an email alert, you should not ignore it. It is sending for a reason. Humans has to evaluate, find if there are any flaws in our algorithm, and then come back to us. Okay, this is not working for this case. Then the developer has to fix it. Now, why agents matter? So we have covered agents till now. So if you say that, okay, this information I can get it in dashboards as well. Yeah, dashboards inform you about something. And copilots help you understand things. But if you want it to be operated, now I want to take this anomaly data and say, now I have triggered ML. But instead of that, I want to correct or block that transaction completely. I can do that with agents. So agents operate. Agents actually individually can operate, and that is what we call as agent orchestration, where agent can communicate with other agent and work independently. And as I said, though we have started with AI or the modern AI, I can say LLMs as a conversation, AI we have evolved from conversation to action. Having said that, yeah, thank you, Pratap, for this wonderful opportunity. I don't
Yeah.
have many others, any other questions I haven't heard. So thank you.
Yeah, so we do have few questions like
Okay.
yeah, Sudhir. Okay, like excellent session discussion on Copilot autonomous evaluation, hands-on demo and all. So wonderful, and so we are getting some appreciation. And Hari, we are getting one question like what are your views about Sarvam AI and Bharat GPT, which were born in born and bought in India.
So Sarvam AI, I really don't have a hands-on on, but Bharat GPT, yeah. If you have country-specific needs or country-specific securities, if you want to be, you can definitely try and use it.
Yeah,
As I said,
so I have
yes.
yeah, I
Yes.
have tried the Servam APA. So when we conducted one hackathon in Microsoft very long back, 5 months back. So before this boon of Servam AI, but it was really nice. So whenever we need to create something new, and also it was really nice that we can definitely use the Servam AI and Bharat GPT is just like So we do have lots of GPTs. They are using OpenAI APIs, but for example, let's say Gita GPT, like that. We do have lot of things like the same way like Bharat GPT and all. But yeah, so everything is depends upon the which cloud platform, which models we are using. So we are just calling the APIs from their end. Yeah, so then we are getting the information we need to try in that particular the server is definitely like it is born in India and there is one of the startup called server. Yeah, Bharat GPT is similar kind of our so we are just calling the models from the different models under. Yeah. So and one more question and Divya, and real-time insights and research along with automations and workflows. Like
Yeah.
do yeah, you just already covered everything. Yeah, so it was so it was really nice. Like I would like to know something about like you just demonstrated something on autonomous agents and everything. So which one you like? Like so the new version of AI framework or like old version of this open? I mean Foundry, Microsoft Foundry.
That's a tough question. That's a tough question. So for
Yeah,
me, since I go with code, I tend to use a lot of old versions. But
yeah,
I mean, behind the frameworks, everything is
yeah,
same with new
mm,
UI probably.
yeah.
And
So yeah.
Pratap, yesterday have you covered real-time insights?
Yeah, yeah. I just took over the how open API scheme, and I just call the backend. I mean, the backend will be fully on the logic apps. So,
Oh,
like, so how we are going to replace the values from the UI perspective? Like, I just added one certificate and how we can populate the for example name, course name and everything from the. So we are giving these inputs from the in the agent. This AI is going to replace everything by using the backend. So the ultimate bridge is like our open API. So we are calling this the logic apps by using HTTP request and all. So this is how like I just covered yesterday. Yeah. Yeah, so apart from that it was really nice, like you just covered gone through the logic apps, gone through the IA Foundry, gone through the I don't know all the schema and pro code and low code and everything and so it was really nice presentation, Divya. Yeah, so yeah, looking forward to contribute your session one more time, and so
okay.
that would be really nice for us to share our insights to throughout the tech world.
Sure,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, thank you so much.